There are people all around the world in every walk of life who collect and analyze information in an effort to keep themselves and others better informed and prepared. They are part of a profession, a discipline, a calling, a community, an industry, a bureaucracy, an enterprise. They practice a tradecraft, offer a decision advantage, and provide a public good. Their work is hidden behind classification banners, secure facilities, compartmented clearances, and big institutions with vast resources and capabilities. What they do impacts our everyday lives. This is intelligence. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, it's coming. So you want me to look at the camera, look at you, or
We'll
both?
we'll look at each other, but do whatever when you feel like it.
Okay.
So, thank you so much, Warren. Such a pleasure to have you here today. So first, tell us, who are you?
Thanks for having me. My name is Warren Strobel. I'm the National Intelligence Reporter for the Washington Post. I cover the U.S. intelligence community. I've been writing about national security, U.S. national security. Sorry. I've been writing about U.S. national security and foreign policy for almost 40 years. And we know each other through your mom, who I met sort of early, mid-career.
I miss her so much.
Yeah.
All the time.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Great woman.
Wonderful. So you are an intelligence reporter. That's a
Yep.
very unusual job. There's very few people that do that in Washington, let alone anywhere in the world.
Yep.
And it's a very difficult job. Of all the jobs being a journalist I can think of, I can't imagine a more difficult one than trying to report on a set of government agencies that don't want to be reported on.
Yes. I daydream sometimes about covering sports or the U.S. Congress, where you have 535 people who just want to talk. It's a challenging job, and it's gotten more challenging under the current administration because there are, I'm not trying to be partisan here, just laying out the facts. They have tried to crack down on what they call leakers and even threatened to find out who our sources are in a couple of stories we've written. Nothing to do with your area of the world, having to do with Iran and with Venezuela and cartels. Yeah.
So you stay up at night worrying about the sources?
I do sometimes, yeah. We've had several meetings to talk about, make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect our sources. Yeah. Good operational security.
Ultimately, it's almost impossible to fully protect a source
That's true.
if the government really wants to know.
Yes.
So that being said, why would someone reach out to you, a reporter, to talk about intelligence and take that risk?
That's a really good question. I mean, first of all, it's trust, right? I build with trust with people over time. They trust me that I'm going to handle the information in the way that we agree, that I kind of understand the information and its import and the nuance. And they trust that I will protect their identity to the best of my ability. As you said earlier, it's my ability to do that is not 100%. And then why do people reach out? They reach out because they see something going wrong that they believe the public should know about. They reach out because they have a grievance that they want to get aired. And, when you hear that from people, you sort of take their grievance and then you kind of weigh whether they have some legitimate beef or it's just bitching, for lack of a better word. They reach out because they feel like maybe a story I wrote wasn't the whole story, and they want to supply another 20 or 30%. Various reasons that people reach out. That makes sense.
How common is it that someone who's in the intelligence community currently reaches out to you?
Inside the intelligence community, it is, to be honest, fairly rare for an active serving intelligence officer to reach out or respond to an outreach from me. I do a lot of outreach. And
you have to.
You have
the
to,
job.
of course, yeah. And it's like sales in a way, in the sense that 85 or 90 or 92% of your pitches don't go anywhere. And you have to know that going in. Yeah.
The government's always happy to reach out to you, aren't they? The intel agencies have value in being able to put their story out there or their version of events.
Yes, this is true. This is true. Each of the intelligence agencies are, yeah, I think almost each of the intelligence, certainly the major ones, have public affairs offices. And in some cases, those public affairs offices are almost joined to the hip to the director. It was certainly true under Burns, where Burns, the former director of the CIA, believed in having some sort of relationship with the press, and his press office was fairly important in the overall structure of CIA. That comes and goes with different directors, but yeah, they want to get the story out there. They want to, if we hear things, sometimes they will do what is called giving you a steer, which is like they don't want their fingerprints on it, but they'll say you're right or you're right about this, but I'd be careful about that. Um, Most of all, especially the Central Intelligence Agency, they want to protect their reputation.
And they do have quite a reputation to protect.
Man,
Indeed.
they're very good at it.
They're very good at
Over
yeah,
the decades. They've been very
absolutely.
good, yes.
They have a track record of accomplishment. So how do you cut through the fog if you're talking to a press office, for example?
Right.
How do you know when you're being steered? How do you know when what you're being told is honest explanation or when it is meant to influence as well as inform what you're doing?
Yeah. So my experience with the press office, particularly the CIA, is that they do not outright provide bad information.
They've no incentive in misleading you.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, whatever you think of the CIA, their culture is one of trying to get to the truth, right?
Right.
And they also know that if they provide me bad information, that like their reputation,
It'll burn the relationship.
it'll burn the relationship with me, with the Washington Post, and with other news organizations. But yes, do they try and influence and inform? Yes, both influence and inform. They do. And I think the best way to describe how we do it is that is one source of information, but it's not the only source of information. So I don't want to talk about my sources, but I will go elsewhere throughout the U.S. government, the community of former intelligence officers who are very savvy and have lines to the inside and come up. It's most useful to go to the CIA or ODNI press offices when you already have a story that's 85% done and force them to respond, engage. Does that make sense?
We're talking about such opaque organizations. If you have a source that comes to you and says, here's an issue, here's a story, how do you cut through that fog? Because to begin with, you're never going to be able to see the classified information behind the story.
Yeah.
And that means you're never going to be able to evaluate whether the person approaching you is approaching you out of honest motivations and being transparent with you.
Yeah.
You'll never be able to know if there's some other grievance behind it because you can't even see the first order of information upon which the story is based.
Yes, that's true. And it is more art than science, and it is frustrating because you don't have access to the raw or even the finished intelligence product, right? And this was the problem in the lead up to the Iraq War, where the administration was saying we have intelligence that Saddam has these ties to terrorist groups, and we have intelligence that he's doing these things with chemical, biological, nuclear weapons, et cetera, et cetera. And it was very hard to get behind that and say that actually the intelligence is right, or is you're only giving us part of the picture. So I'm not sure where I was going with that, but
it's okay. At this point, we should mention the movie that's based on your experiences.
Yeah. Before I do,
before
let
that.
me give you one
Okay,
sort of example. I was at the Wall Street Journal until January, and while I was there, I did a big story looking at the U.S. intelligence community. How good are they on China? China is the big emerging threat.
That's a good question.
Right. And I spent 9 months or so, talked to everybody who used to work on China intelligence community. I believe I got some background off the record briefings from various U.S. intelligence agencies. I looked at the track record, and I came to the conclusion that actually the U.S. intelligence community is behind. They have gaps, particularly on the human. But I wrote the story knowing that I think my reporting analysis was right, but it was very kind of, it was unsatisfying because I never could look behind the curtain.
It's not only that, right? Because by what standard? It's hard enough to know whether our government is good enough on China.
Yeah.
But compared to what? What standard are you judging that on? We could be behind on certain aspects of collection or analysis, whatever.
Yeah.
Relative to who? Is there another government that does it better than we do?
Yeah.
That's the question. It's like, you'll never know that.
Yeah.
And then compared to what we should know about China, well, that's like the unknown unknowns.
Yes.
if our government doesn't know
Yep.
what's going on, then how could you expect anyone outside of China to know necessarily what's going on? So how can you judge that? That's a hard one, right?
It's a hard one. Yeah.
But I guess you can poll people, you can survey people involved,
Look,
and you can ask them their judgment. Do they feel that we're doing
right,
enough?
right.
That's about as close as you can get, isn't it?
I think that's true. Yeah, and then you can look at the track record, but it's also a multi-level question about like, okay, how good are we in China? How good are we understanding it? President Xi's plans and intentions? How good are we on the Chinese military? How good are we on Chinese society? Especially how good are we on understanding China's development of advanced technology like biopharmaceuticals, artificial intelligence, quantum computing? So it's like a multi-level question that I did my best to answer. And
Okay, well, if we're talking intelligence failure, intelligence success, most of the literature on intelligence failure defines it in terms of kinetic attacks on the homeland, or potential or real.
yeah,
You're talking Pearl Harbor, you're talking 9/11, you're talking,
yeah,
the Cuban Missile Crisis, these types of things.
okay.
By that standard, you judge the quality of intelligence based on whether there's a catastrophic failure at some point that we missed that results in lives lost. Is that a fair way to evaluate whether we're doing a good or bad job in intelligence?
I think it's an incomplete way.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, I think the record shows that, like on the Ukraine war and Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and that the intelligence community did actually a pretty good job. But what if they hadn't? What if they had missed it somehow? That would be an intelligence failure. There isn't a direct attack on the homeland or even on a U.S. ally, but it's
That's right.
right. Here's another example, and I don't know the details here, but 5, 6, 7 months ago, China made a apparently leap forward in artificial intelligence with a thing called DeepSeek, if I have the name right.
I can't remember. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the
Yeah,
story.
did we see
It was,
that
it was all
coming?
over the papers.
Yeah.
Clearly not, because it was front page of every newspaper.
Yeah. So
Everyone was shocked.
there's an intelligence failure, I think, from an intelligence community whose leaders have been talking publicly, going back to Bill Burns and John Radcliffe, of the importance of China and keeping track of its technological development. So, yeah, I think it's an incomplete uh, definition of intelligence failure. Yeah.
There's a number of reporters that have close connections within the administration, and over the years are known for being people that the administration goes to leak
Yeah.
information to. And then these reporters get criticized for being too cozy with political officials.
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's unfair?
I think it's a fine line. I mean, like, as we were talking earlier, I want to try to get inside the CIA to the extent I can and know people there and understand what's going on. And to do that, you have to have some sort of relationship with
Someone.
senior officials
High up.
at the agency, right? But it's a fine line between doing that and then crossing the line to becoming sort of what we call a sock puppet, a spokesperson, and a shill for the agency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I try not to do that, and I've been accused of doing it. It'd be getting too close to the agency. Yeah. Um, I think it also depends on the administration, quite frankly. Whereas the Biden administration, for all its what we may consider its faults, it was a little bit easier to cover CIA and ODNI. They weren't antagonistic, and they tried to invite us in. I mean, it's a silly little thing, but I was the first person to go to the new gym, really cool gym that the CIA had been trying to get for 15 or 20 years, and tour that, and I got to tour some other spaces. I also got to tour the place where they put together the PDB every night for a story.
Yeah.
So that kind of
Right.
access, like I'm not getting at the hearts of like intelligence failures or not, but you get like to see a different aspect of the agency. I'm talking about CIA here mostly because it's the biggest one. It's the one I have to spend most of my time covering. The current administration basically calls us legacy media, propagandists for the deep state, has threatened our sources, and I have not been invited out to LAX Liberty Crossing for a background briefing or even a courtesy meeting with Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah.
This is your chance to make a pitch for that.
I
If they invite you, they invite you.
Yeah, if they don't, again, it's not going to make or break what I do, but it would be nice to just go out there and
It would make it more personal for you.
right, and personal is a lot of what I do.
Do you think that your readers, the American public, have much of a sense of what goes on, or sort of the everyday humdrum nature of the people that do this job?
No, and I
Not at
try
all.
in my journalism, I consciously try to sort of inform people about how intelligence is done and what the different agencies do, and that's so on and so forth. But I don't think the American people understand. First of all, they mostly see intelligence failures because those become public. Intelligence successes, they may become public 50 years after the, yeah. So that's one thing. Second of all, as you know better than I, intelligence analysis and collection production is a very kind of niche thing that involves lots of disciplines and so forth that I don't think the American people are like, I don't think they get that. And they see a different kind of intelligence on TV, spy dramas and so forth. And see, I've even had times where my editors who know something about national security, they ask me questions or propose stories that appear to be based on
what they saw on TV.
Yeah, or at least not based, but at least informed by what they saw on TV. It's very frustrating.
It's quite possible policymakers do the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Expertise, the people that you meet in this line of work, people who work on these issues in DC,
Yeah.
Or people who formerly worked in these issues, to what extent do you feel that they really have expertise? What is expertise today?
That's a good question. What is expertise? I'm going to leave that question to you,
yeah, that's
Joshua,
fine.
but
How often do you encounter it, and how do you know when you've seen it?
okay. So I've encountered some people who are super, super smart in the intelligence community who really know a particular region of the world or a particular functional thing like AI or advanced technology. So there's a lot of expertise, I feel like, out there. What I don't know or I don't have a better sense of is like, as you put together an intelligence report, is that expertise is like the hard edges sandpapered off, or does it become pat because it's like written by committee and so forth? There's a process there where the expertise might become less sharp. And then the other problem is, like, I think a lot of people who have expertise in one area, then they leave government and they got to go get a job, and they go to some think tank or academia or whatever, and they start talking about things that they know less about.
Or they do a podcast
Or
on
they do-
intelligence.
Yeah.
Embarrassing.
Yeah. But no, this is something you know about. You
Well,
wrote
maybe,
a book about
maybe
it.
I know something about it.
Yeah, but I'm thinking more about
It's
people
very
who
kind of you. Maybe
spent their
overgenerous.
entire careers in counterterrorism, which was the hot thing for 2 decades.
And now it's not.
So they start talking about something else, which they don't know as well. Yeah. But I've read something, to be fair, I mean, like, these are people, like, not everybody. There's some people who don't, but I've met a lot of people I feel like are really, really freaking smart.
The intelligence community is changing right now, I feel. I wrote about this recently, how it's at a crossroads, but I think it's a bit more than that. There's something qualitatively different, and maybe it's been underway for a couple of years now. I don't know, but I think we certainly see it. And part of that is the willingness of the current administration to dig through old emails, dig through old files, and then declassify and show the American public this is what happened. This is what people were doing behind the scenes. That's unusual. That's highly unique.
Yeah.
It's not just unique in terms of that they're doing it. It's unique in their attitude towards their job. And you think about how different that is from the last administration or the one before it, where the cutting edge of intelligence was intelligence diplomacy.
Yes.
Taking intelligence, declassifying it for the purpose of impacting events around the world, like with Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Or Gaza.
Or Gaza.
Ceasefire. Yeah.
That's not what's going on now. What's going on now is taking a microscope to the intelligence community itself and saying, by doing what they're doing, saying, you need to have a different attitude towards your job.
Right.
That seems to me to be qualitatively different.
I agree. Yeah. I'm going to say a few things here that are going to sound partisan, and I don't mean them so, but I really don't. But just, first of all, I have no problem with taking a microscope to the intelligence community, checking out people's analysis. People should not have political biases, obviously, but I think this administration, and particularly Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has declassified things, and then for political reasons, basically to please Trump or to undercut what was a consensus about Russia's role in the 2016 election. And beyond that, they've declassified things and then misconstrued what they say. So they have. I can give you a couple of examples of that, but I don't think they're being non-political about it. And that's about as diplomatic as I can be.
I mean, I look at it as glass half full, that a change to the attitude and culture of the IC is a positive thing.
Yeah.
I can see how some people would look at it from a partisan lens. It's not my particular perspective, but I'm on a different side of things.
Yeah.
So you could look at it in a negative sense, saying that it's politicizing the intelligence community in a way that shouldn't be done.
Yeah.
If that's the approach you choose to take.
Let me give you another example.
Yeah,
And again, I'm not trying to be partisan, but back in April, May timeframe, the intelligence community wrote some assessments that said a cartel known Trender Aragua, they're really bad dudes, but they are not controlled by the government in Venezuela of Nicolas Maduro. He's not sending them into the U.S. And that undercut what President Trump was trying to do, would say, I'm invoking the Alien Enemies Act because it's a foreign directed invasion. The two people who helped write that, the head of the National Intelligence Council, Ed Odinai, and his deputy were fired. I don't think that leads to a situation where you get good intelligence, or you get people speaking truth to power, which is what we need.
Fine,
you may have a different view.
Well, I would, and I've written that there's an element of politicization that's gone on in the intelligence community that the public may not see, that's gone on for decades. And there's plenty of people in academia who've written about this. And there's people in academia who've even written from the opposite perspective, saying that there's a value to a closeness between the analyst and the politician.
Yeah.
There are benefits to that. This debate goes all the way back to the early years, to the early 1950s. There were people at the beginning of the foundation of the intelligence community that were arguing both ways on this issue, actually. So the problem is that the guiding principles of tradecraft within the intelligence community, within the IC, are modeled around three basic principles of timeliness, objectivity, and non-politicization.
Right.
It's embedded in the core guiding principles of the industry, of the field, as it's practiced in Washington. And it creates this image that, therefore, the intelligence community is not politicized because they have built it into their mission statement. But the debate about whether to be politicized or not, and the fact that there are aspects of political closeness that exist, goes all the way back to the 1950s. It's not a secret. I would argue that the politicization that you may see right now, or may not see right now, is simply a surface manifestation of something that's always been there. I don't know.
You would know better than I.
Yeah, but we're not talking sources and methods, and this is entirely unclassified. As you and I do not have clearances, and I have no classified information. Neither do you. So all we can do is leave it at that, I suppose.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a young person going into this profession today?
To be a national security reporter?
Reporter, that's right.
Build relationships, build trust. I know you're going to be pressured a lot to get big stories and make deadlines and make a name for yourself, but take the time to really get to know the field. It's very complex, and I've been doing this for 40 years, and there's still learning stuff every day, and there's a lot I don't know. Avoid the temptation to make yourself a big Twitter or social media presence. Of course, you have to put your stories on X and other social media so they're seen, and it's a great way to kind of get sources who will like weigh in and comment and so forth. But it's not about you, it's about the story, and it's about trying to get to as close as you can to the best available version of the truth, to quote Bernstein. Ethel Woodward and Bernstein.
You glad you did this career move? You started out as what, a local beat reporter here in DC?
Yeah, but I always wanted to do, look, local journalism is really important, and it's actually dying for financial reasons, but I always wanted to do international affairs. So I wanted to be a foreign correspondent, and that didn't actually happen for a lot of reasons, though I spent a fair bit of time reporting from overseas. But yeah, no, I have no regrets. Had a great career. I've been fortunate. Been to 109 countries, seen history and being made, and met some wonderful people.
Maybe the last thing, a lot of people have this myth of reporters such as yourself that all you're doing is going around trying to get classified information and leak it.
Yeah.
That's not really your goal, and that's not really your interest, is it?
No, it's not. I don't wake up every morning and say, hi, I want to get some classified information and splash it on the front page of the Washington Post. But I do believe that in U.S. intelligence community, it's roughly $95 billion, let's say 150,000 people, probably more, immense power in a democracy. That's a kind of uneasy fit, and that the intelligence community needs to be reported on to best we can, held to account, explained. And if I get something that is a classified information that pertains to some issue of the day, will I report it? Probably, hopefully in a thoughtful way.
Thank you so much, Warren. It really mattered to me to do this one, do it early in the podcast series, because it's such an unusual thing, and most people working in intelligence probably never met a reporter.
Yes.
And they probably have no idea what you do or how you do it. And they're probably amazed that you do your job at all. And so much of what you do trying to get information about the intelligence community is sort of a black mirror for the intelligence community. As much as the intelligence community itself is trying to get very hard and difficult to get information about the rest of the world, you're doing that to the intelligence community, right? And you have to have your own tradecraft, your own sources and methods, just as much as the intelligence community does. So to see that reflected, I think, is valuable for viewers. And also because I remember the old days. I remember the run up to the invasion of Iraq. My mom on the phone every night with the reporters who would call looking for background on this and that and other thing.
I was almost certainly among them.
You and Robin Wright and David Ignatius. And we'd finish the McNeil Lehrer News Hour, and then the phone calls would start on the landline late at night, and they would go late into the evening. And it was just it was a time. It was a very different era, a very different age.
Wow.
So I'm so glad we were able to do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. It's a really good conversation. Thank you.